I'm Jukka, and this is a recording of session held on Thursday, 25th. But as the recorded version of the session got corrupted, now this is material made later. Apologies for the delay on getting this uploaded to the website of innoboost.eu. But let's get on with the show. So today we're going to discuss a bit about design sprints, design sprint methodology, how to facilitate the design sprint, and then later on we'll go to the assignments and general info. Firstly, a brief introduction. The purpose of a design sprint in this context of InnoBoost is to understand the design sprint development method, some ways maybe to implement it in fast development projects such as in the bootcamp weeks, and also the steps included in the method based on the material we are using. After this part, the students will understand and hopefully can explain the basics of design sprint methodology. Of course, we have students from different levels, so the variety of explanations is hopefully quite broad. And as I mentioned in the last sentence, the students will get an empirical point of view in the development method. Then for the introduction, why are we discussing about design sprints? Well, design sprint is an agile development method widely used in fast and short period development cycles, and it's quite a new development method, even though the tools used are a bit older. The method first there by Jake Knapp and John Karatsky and Braden Kovitz in the book Sprint, How to Solve Big Problems and Test New Ideas in Just 5 Days, which was published in 2016, and it is from Google Ventures. And further on, the model was developed by Banfield et al. To a more defined development method consisting of a variety of tools that we are going to also dive into during this session. Why design sprint? Well, design sprints are flexible. It's something that has a structure, but you as a developer or a facilitator can alter some of the smaller parts of the design sprint. So inside the structure, you have a space in which you can move and create lovable products for the selected customer wishes. The development method was created for product design, thus the prototyping phase, but can also be easily transferred to service design, creating services or digital products even. And for study uses, the design sprint offers a development environment where the students can focus on the development of a given task with a clear objective, but then the lecturers can decide on how they would like to approach the design sprint method as of their own. So the origins of design sprint, it has been evolving from a variety of development approaches, but mostly the design sprints and the time boxed nature of design sprint comes from these design charrettes represented by a collaborative designer group, and the charrettes were hosted in Stanford's D School. From Stanford, the charrette idea was then later transformed and refined into a tool or method for ideas shopping cart concept, where instead of designers, we had multidisciplinary teams facing a demand to create a working concept, a product or service in 5 days. And the latest iteration of the design sprint development was really brought from Google Ventures by Jake Knapp and their team, where they formed a model of development. We had daily program. It had daily sort of these daily structures, a weekly structure, and it had the 5-day constraint. Here you can see the design sprint visualization by Jake Knapp and their team from the book Sprint. And here you can see on Monday we have the mapping phase. So I'm trying to understand what's happening, trying to define what we are solving. Then on Tuesday, we hop on to understanding on how we could generate something new. So this is the diverge stage where we try to map more, more and more solutions until we are satisfied with the quality and the quantity of the ideas we have been producing. Then on Wednesday, it's the deciding phase. So on Wednesday, we hop onto the solution phase. Out of the ideas, we will map out some and then form our own understanding on how could we effectively solve the problem we are facing. On Thursday, the idea of the solution is being brought to test. So we are going to build a realistic prototype. And in this model, the prototype means something really concrete. We will go on to the prototyping later on in this presentation, but it's a realistic prototype. So a really hands-on thing, an element, an entity through which you can understand how the challenge is really being solved by the team. And on Friday, you're going to, in this model, the group will present their idea with target customers and try to find relevance and try to find reason to meet. Is the solution meeting with what they thought of? And is there something that the team has sort of left unnoticed? So a lot of things to do in 5 days, and it's a hectic uh, sprint, as you might call it. And yeah, the methodology requires us to understand a lot of from the customer and also create new prototypes. In here, we are using Empathy Map, but let's see about the tools later on. In the design sprint, in this presentation, we are going to use the design sprint book, so the practical guidebook for building great digital products. And this is by Richard Banfield, Cito Lombardo, and Trace Wax. And this was the first book to sort of enclose the design sprint as a method. And these phases in the presentation follow the stages of the book. In here, we have the understanding, preparation phase, where we already can know what the task is going to be, but the task is not yet given to us. Then we have, after we've received the task, we have the understanding phase, reviewing background, building up the team, building up user insight. Then we have the diverge phase, building the possibilities. And then we have the converge phase, the solution creation. And finally, we have the prototyping and experiment or testing phase, where we build a realistic prototype and then experiment with real customers. And finally, as the design sprint is a learning method, so we want to learn from the experiments. If needed, if there's still some spaces to learn, if something went not according to the plan, then we can iterate and create a new design sprint cycle until we are satisfied with the results we have. On the preparation phase, we already have the background material, so we sort of understand what we are doing, but we might not yet have the realistic case in our hands. So we just try to form a basic understanding on what's going on in the market, let's say for beverage market. What story do they tell? Can we see a market shift going somewhere? and what trends or phenomena can we find from the market. So trying to understand the situation in a general level. And after we've received the task or the challenge, uh, before we hop into the challenge, it's more important to understand the opportunity. Opportunity and how the team is going to grasp it. So firstly, you as team members or we as team members, we must recognize who we are inside the group as individuals. And here you could use the material from Laura Maya. So the material on building innovative teams. And of course, when we are discussing a project, we also have the objectives, of course, for the real tangible results regarding a product or service, but also for our own individual achievements. So, what do we want to gain from the project? It might be credits, or it might be something else, maybe some knowledge, maybe networks, and so on and so on. But we need to understand what are the motives of each individual member. So after the collective understanding has been formed, so now we understand who we are as individuals, then we need to find out also who we are as a team. So again, referring to Laura Maya, ego does not really have a place here. We are more important than I am, because only when we understand who the we are, we can decide on how can we move forward as a team onwards to the case itself. And when we move on from the team building to the case, there are some rules. I have not taken all the rules, but some rules that Banfield sees um, important for the development. So rules and guidelines. Rules are extremely important. Let's say we are doing this project with team members we have not met before, people we don't know, and we all are a bit unclear on how we're going to move forward. The first thing is everyone should participate. It's a fast project, and having everyone on board doing their share of the work, it takes a load from the whole team, and it helps you succeed. So everyone should participate, and it should also be facilitated so that everyone has the chance to participate. Then another important thing is that one conversation at a time. So when we're having these conversations is at a team, we're having small teams like two, maybe let's say we have 4 members or 6 members, and there might be some like sub cliques inside a group, but still we should concentrate on one important conversation at a time because the time is limited, the progression is swift. We should maintain the focus so that we concentrate on developing one topic at a time. This will help you also to use the team resources better and again succeed within the given time frame. The third thing is when discussing about psychological safety. Uh, Psychological safety does not mean that you cannot critique your peers, but you should not critique them before you've thought your critique thoroughly. So you can judge ideas, but you should have a definition, an explanation on why you're judging the ideas and giving them critique. Then, fourth, be timely. Uh, Things should be done on time. You should be on time because that will support again the possibilities that team has um, in succeeding during the sprint. Everyone should be there on time and doing their own part. Then what you should focus on is also on the computers and on the mobile devices per group. So how are you going to use them? You can use one computer and one mobile device per group so that you can again I'm saying focus a lot of times, but you can share the responsibility maybe on information seeking. Someone can map out what information is being sought after, and by that you have a better understanding on what's going on inside the group. This again goes to the same ideology that the one conversation at a time. It helps you maintain the focus when you have a um, set roles or set tasks inside the team. And six, of course, be present. This is easier in on-site meetings than it is on online meetings, because on online the intensity varies. It's a lot different on the intensity level than it is on the on-site meetings. But you should still be present on helping the team and focusing on what's going on inside the group. Then, as we're moving forward fast, in the fast-paced development, you should, during the early stages, also already agree on what will be your goals and anti-goals related to the project. It's easy for the study projects and with students, one good goal is great. And having a goal set, maybe let's say from a grading criteria from 1 to 5, and you're setting your scopes to a 5, or you're setting your scopes to a 1. That demands different types of activities from the group. And thus, now you have sort of set the working environment inside the group. And setting goals will help you steer the project towards a joint objective. But now, as you're working with, you might work with people you don't know. Some people might have differences of opinion inside the group. That's a trickier part. And that goes into the facilitation. So, with these different objectives regarding the goal, then you should focus on facilitating a result that's good enough. So it's a compromise. It's good enough for all of the team members so that no one is disappointed. Because if you're disappointed in the first stage, then the disappointment usually and the lack of motivation drives through the whole week. Okay, now you've set sort of the tone for the team. Then let's start to focus on the market. The team should focus on what's already in the market. So analyzing what's happening, let's say again on the beverage area, what types of brands are there, how they're posted, what types of brand messages are there, with whom do you see that your product or service is competing with in your selected market. And if we're discussing about real products, let's say for the beverages, let's say energy drinks, the easiest way to do this is sort of it's not a research as such, but it's how would I say it? You get a good view of the market by going into some store, taking some pictures from the beverage shelves, and just analyzing what's happening in the market, what types of brands, how are they looking, to whom are they selling, and so on and so on. So you understand the competitive situation. This is also the place where facts and assumptions might mix up. So we all have our different backgrounds. We all have our different understanding. In these study modules, we also have a difference in the learning and development maturity, because we're having bachelor students, master students, researchers, all doing the same tasks. And I think that's the best thing here. We have so many perspectives and we have so many assumptions. The facts and assumptions, they go side by side, but we don't want to mix the facts with assumptions. So if you have an assumption, you should have also some facts based on that's giving background to your assumption. So use credible sources to back your own thinking. This way, the material you're providing for your team will gradually grow the information and inside the group, and hopefully the information turns into knowledge, and thus it also furthermore helps your team to improve as a whole. Then for the problem, uh, challenges are different. Challenges might be really open, but if we are discussing about the sprint here, usually there is a problem we want to solve. The problem might be given to us, or the problem might be defined by the group based on the challenge given by an organization, a case customer. To understand the problem to be solved, we need information about the environment, the current circumstances, the customer's competition, and also about the organization that's giving the challenge to us. So really mapping up the information structure, if we call it here, a structure, it's not an easy task, but it's the most important one because this the information sort of uh, infrastructure helps you guide the project during the week. And the problem should be really clearly pictured so that we can separate a problem from the background noise. So we understand what we are really solving. And the understand, if we conclude the understand phase, so the first real phase, uh, we should have an understanding of the market. We should have spent time understanding who we are, what the problem is. We should have already some list about the assumptions. We should have a reference list, some questions maybe related to the project that we want to ask from the customers and ask from the case company. We should have a vague understanding of who the customer is and why the problem we've stated is a problem for them, how it appears in their life. Is it a minor problem from let's say the problem scale is so that problem level 1 is really minor, it's a nuance, it doesn't really affect my life, and I don't want to spend a lot of money or effort or time or other resources solving it, but it's just giving me an uneasy feeling. Then we hop on to the other end of the scale, so to the critical problems. They're level 10. In here, uh, the problem is really intensively affecting my life. I really need the problem to be solved, and it really is something that I would spend my resources, I would spend my time, and I would spend all my money to solve the problem. So the problems are different and personas are different. So we should create a persona to refine the understanding we have. And if possible, if we have the time, uh, we should also create a customer journey map to set the customer into a context on what they do, who they are, where they live, and so on and so on. Because then it would operate, the customer journey canvas would operate sort of as a mirror to our development work during this week. Okay, day 1 is in the books, and we are moving onwards to the day 2. So to the diverse stage. The purpose of the diverse stage is to create a vast number of ideas to really heat up the product or service development. So we want to create immense amount of product or service ideas, and the development is really flexible. So this is an hopefully a funny day. So this is a day where you have energy, you're creating something new, you have these ideas, you are looking for new information. And you have a day to really map out all the ideas and look into the environment, look into the trends, find new maybe trends that would support your ideation. And after you've, as individuals and as a team, conducted the idea development phase, then you should start looking into on how you can combine the ideas into like these idea groups and select the best ideas during the day. So how can you ideate? One good tool, because if we're now working in groups where we don't really have the joint understanding, we're just operating with people we're just getting to know. Wireframing is a great tool, and wireframing means that we are creating very rough sketch type models on how our product or service would look like, both on the outside and inside. How would it operate? What type of customer journey path would there be included? And it clarifies the user experience and the production phase and the usage phase also on the customer's end. And these wireframes are great tools because they help your team to further include details in the idea. And the wireframes should be based on these like happy scenarios so that everything is going well, your process is working, and so on and so on. The solution operates efficiently and it's done so that it fulfills the customer's need. And what you could do, let's say you're wrapping up the diver stage, you're doing the wireframing part, you don't have maybe any visual expertise inside the group. You should let AI with clearly defined prompts, you should let AI do the pictures if pictures are needed. So you would be responsible for the prompt, and the AI would just draw a picture or a lot of pictures based on your wireframing ideas. The diverge phase, compared to the preparation phase, is I would even call it it's a bit easier on the facilitation side because now we're just creating ideas. We want to create as much meaningful ideas as possible, and we sort of value quantity over quality. This allows the individuals to create their own ideas inside the workshop day and also start with the combination on how could the different ideas be combined, what could be used, and so on and so on. And in here, you can also like thought of or think of uh, something old. How has this problem maybe been solved earlier? And is there something lacking in the old ways of solving problem? I think Uber is a great example. So, for instance, Uber using or creating a taxi service, as one might call it, but not creating a taxi service. Now, instead of taxis, the drivers are using their own cars and their own resources as individuals, and they are selling really their resources. They're selling their time. They're selling their um, a car, so physical resources, and they're also like using your service to provide your service platform to provide some types of services for other types of customers, the users that want to get lifts or rides through Uber. And yeah, I think that's a good example because you can also look good solutions from earlier days and then just starting to combine the old knowledge with maybe something new. Then the second day is in the wraps. And then we hop on to the third day, so the converge phase. Next, in here, we have a vast amount of ideas, which we want to start narrowing down and really building a flesh around the bone. We have a lot of good ideas. Maybe we've done pre-selection already on the prior day, but now the ideas should be concluded to a single idea set. An idea set with which the team continues forward with. It might have only one idea. It might have five ideas concluded that sort of supported each other, but it should be something that we can sort of like there's one idea that's driving the car in this sense, driving the development. And that idea is something that reflects also to the problem statement that you have created earlier. So idea set, the problem, they must speak the same language. And they all must be something that you can see that values the customer, gives the customer additional value in their life. So now, if possible, do not create any new ideas. start combining the ideas from the prior day. Avoid fresh, shallow ideas. Focus on the depth. So try to build up already something that has meaning. Because if we just continue to ideate during the converge phase, then we sort of miss the point on developing something deeper that has a meaning and that's already sort of going into the concept stage of the development. And yeah, that's something that might be hard to facilitate also with teams that have a lot of capabilities in the idea development phase. They just continue ideation and ideation and ideation until they have to create a prototype, and then they see that hey, we don't even have a concept ready yet. So focus on building. As said, flesh around the bone. So building something that's already starting to form into a real concept. And if we look this as from the facilitation point of view, when we're doing the converging phase, some of the most sort of vocal students might take some breathing room. But if we want to create great ideas, and ideas that sort of the whole team owns. Also, the more silent members should be taken into the consideration and their ideas should be looked into. In converging, we should also be starting to have this critique. So if the ideation stage, the diverse stage, was something where we didn't want to really critique the ideas, now when we're building the concept, remember, psychological safety doesn't mean that everyone needs to agree on everything. Now we can have critique towards the development. And as we gain more information, we should analyze throughout the process on what it means based on our development idea. Does the additional new information support what we are doing, or does it somehow does the new information mean that we need to pivot what we are doing? So be also open for the idea. In this stage, the development group should also be open to still pivot their idea, pivot their concept if the data, the information, the insights so demand. So the converse phase, this is a good stage for identifying alternative solutions, scenarios for your developed idea, and have a lot of like discussions on are we going with the right idea towards the right goal, and we might have some alternatives, some other scenarios that might stray from the original on this stage yet. And after the review process inside the team, we should be able to decide one single concept uh, that could be influential for us to move on with. If possible, we can interview some customers or stakeholders to verify that what we are doing really supports where the world is going towards. Okay, that's the third day. Now we move on to the prototyping phase. Prototypes are examples of the products or services we are building, and they already include some key operations we want to show to the audience and test based on our main assumptions. One of these assumptions could be that uh, the mobile phone users would prefer touchscreens compared to keyboards. That might have been an assumption in the early 2000s when the mobile phones were further developed. And some companies, maybe a Finnish company, might have thought that the smartphone segment would have been too small to go into really, and the rest is history. Well, our prototypes vary from quick and dirty, rough fidelity, or rough low fidelity prototypes to a higher fidelity prototypes with more functions, more visualization, and so on and so on. Something that already could be ready to taken into production. But if we see, and when we see design sprint as a week, during this week, there's limited possibilities to create something that's really functioning and all the functionalities are there because time is a constraint usually. We need to focus on the quick and dirty, showing the most important elements, operations inside our own service or product. Because the goal is really to create a mock-up from which the users can identify the elements or functions we want to present them with and experiment with. And because the users are not familiar with what we're presenting them, we should have a copy to explain what the new service or product is, how it's meant to function, and how it's meant to make their lives better. Don't use Lorem Ipsum, or as we call it, the new version of Lorem Ipsum is Lorem GPT, and that's really vague and in general stages. Be your own copywriter. The prototypes created, they can be either digital or physical, just something you can sort of grasp. Sometimes they might have both elements, but when you're doing your prototype, it's easy to sort of get lost in the prototyping, get on lost with the crafting, and focus on maybe some non-essential elements in the product development. Remember to keep in mind what you're doing and that the idea should stay intact and guide the whole process forward. So the key idea on how you're solving the problem should be also when you're deciding on how you're going to start crafting your own prototype. Here are some different level prototypes. So the first one on the bottom right corner is a sketch from BTech Clothing. So a wearable intelligence apparat creation from Nokia. And in here you can see that this is something that could be somehow added to the clothing, and it's a smart wearable, maybe as a part of someone's maybe business attire. So a rough sketch on what something could look like when put into garments. Then on the left side, you can see already sort of more high fidelity. Maybe this is a medium fidelity product called Apple One, and this is the prototype of Apple One computer. And as you can see, it's made on a wooden board. All the parts are there, and this is already sort of functioning. So it's running and it's functioning. All the sort of the core elements are there, but it's still not ready to be taken into the market. Then on the upper hand right side, we can see a high fidelity prototype. So a Sony Nintendo PlayStation, um, a, a co-product created by Sony and Nintendo, and the objective was that you could play both PlayStation games and Nintendo games with the same gaming device. And this was quite far, but at the end, it doesn't got enough traction. It didn't have enough traction to go into real-time markets. So that's too bad. We could have seen a Nintendo PlayStation or a Sony's NES PlayStation. This would have had the CDs and also the SNES cards, and it would have operated sort of as a hybrid model. Would have been extremely interesting. Then, as the prototypes are being built, we move on to the fifth day. So the final day of the design sprint week. In here, we are experimenting with new ideas regarding the sprint journey. We also already have the prototype done, and now we are experimented experimenting with the prototype and with a selected mass of customers or user in a sort of a real world scenario. So we are giving the customers a scenario. We are giving the copy on what your product or service is looking like, and they have to analyze how it's operating. And the testing phase should be planned so that it's as realistic as it can be. The insights on the prototype and idea are good, and even though the opinions and insights of the customers might differ from our perspective, they might have different point of views. The opinions, the differing opinions, are still better if they're sort of neutral, coming from neutral basis, than opinions aimed to please the tester and not giving us a realistic understanding of the situation after usage. So, if possible, do not interview or test with persons that you have some type of a relationship with, your friends, your family, your maybe your spouse, your children, because they give flawed information regarding the development. Have neutral people you don't really know, uh, and don't have the, how would I say it? They don't have the motive to just please you, but they can be objective. Interview people that are objective. And when testing, the testing phase should be kept as simple as possible, with for instance, restricting the amount of users, restricting the amount of persons we are having, uh, maybe also limiting the amount of test time, the possibilities to interact with your product or service. Because, of course, the more information you gather at this point would help to expand your knowledge base. But now we're looking to uh, sort of gain understanding of some, one or two maybe really easy experimentable hypothesis. So keep it sort of simple, stupid. And we're interested in a mass that will start to sort of bring repetition to the answers. So when you gain repetition, let's say after 10 people or 15 people, then you know that you have sort of enough of different types of perspectives, and you can start to, at least on some stages, validate the answers and get validation also for your own hypothesis. A good test should have pre-planned testing materials, pre-planned tools, and a preset testing environment. From the perspective on what you want to research and what type of prototype you're presenting, to the information gathering stage. So everything should be as pre-planned and pre-structured as possible. And after you've done the experiment, it's time to debrief the learnings. Which assumptions were validated, which hypotheses turned out to be true, and which were not. And finally, did we gather enough information and understanding to solve the problem we tried to solve? If yes, excellent. If not, what needs to be done next? So the debrief should also focus on assumptions and hypotheses. What answers did we receive? How did they line up what we thought of the situation? If it greatly differentiates from how we see the world, then we need to also analyze the perspective of the group. That was design sprint uh, explained really fast. Then we can hop on how to facilitate a design sprint. So why is a facilitation a topic of its own in this case? Because facilitation of learning situations helps you, of course, as an expert, but also as a student to get the full advantage of the situation. The lecturers or the mentors, they guide the situations, give instructions and orders, but also inside the student teams, there's also need for facilitation skills and understanding on how and why you should facilitate your own learning. Uh, all all participants are responsible for the progress. All participants are responsible for the success, and no one, not a single member, should be, in theory, just a passive bystander, as then extremely valuable resources, time, and effort are lost during the development process, and that will affect, of course, for the results. But the main thing is that it will affect the learning curve of your team. So be active, be sort of a facilitator. So from Lurik, there's 9 principles of facilitation. The first thing is the assumptions and conclusions. Recognize your own assumptions, review them with your group, be open about your own assumptions, maybe your own limitations in the perspective. Then share relevant information. Share openly both your direct and indirect knowledge related to the topic, as it might influence the process. If you're, I'm getting on the beverage side, if you're drinking a lot of energy drinks, just share it with the group, because then you're an expert. Use specific examples. Try to gain as much traction from the data as possible. Use full data sets where possible. Use Statista and other tools that are available for you. Then, when you're bringing something new to the group or you're challenging something, explain your intentions and conclusions. So, share your intentions on what you pursue in the project, so that the group really understands you and your perspectives more thoroughly. This goes also to the teachers. So, as teachers, you should explain what you are expecting from the groups. What are your expectations? What are your intentions? And so on. Then focus on the interests. As relationships are connected to situations, and a design sprint is a real situation of its own, effective groups can use interests to create a bond based on the desires during the design sprint weeks. Then, create inclusive environments. Avoid monologues and nurture real in-depth conversations. This also goes down to the inclusion part, goes down to the democracy of the group. We should be equal inside the group, thus creating the inclusive environment. No monologues, giving everyone a chance to speak, nurturing the development, nurturing the group work during the whole week. On part 7, export the design for the process. So you as a group, even though there's a lot of structures inside the design sprints, there's a lot of the tools and sort of minor objectives that need to be reached. You as a group can select the topics with which you want to advance on and how. Different perspectives between the groups, different working models, different types of tool selections, they all have a meaning. Each group, the learning from forms in its own way per a group. Then we can discuss what cannot be discussed. So in psychologically safe environments, you can also note some tricky but important subjects effectively. And as the situation is psychologically safe, you can discuss about these maybe problems, differences in the points of view, and hopefully you as a team or with the help of your mentor, you can solve the problems, such as the differences on how to progress. Then supporting the decision-making processes. So groups operate differently, and as a facilitator, as a mentor, This is for the mentors, I think, mostly. We should support the decision-making processes per each group. So groups are different. They have their own objectives and own methods on how they work. But when we recognize the differences, and the differences are somewhat connected to the whole process that we want to have the groups go through, then let the groups do as they please in that sense. So, some tools also regarding the facilitation from KNAP. Uh, we should trust the process. The recipe for cooking will lead to the best results. So some teams will succeed, some teams will manage, and some teams might fail. We just need to explain the process beforehand so that the participants, the students in this case, are they have the possibility and they are aware of what's expected from them and what actions are expected and how can they follow them. Uh, as this is a learning environment, the third part ice breaks on its own. So eventually, all teams will find a way to function. The level of functioning might be different, the level in which they function, but uh, they will function some way, hopefully, towards the end. Some will aim for the grade 5, some will aim for the grade 1, and that also comes to play it so that the teams will set their own objectives. Inside the groups and in the working phase, it's essential that you don't try to outsmart others. Again, here's so many smart people here. Uh, we should respect other people's opinions. We should respect the material they bring into the group, the expertise they bring into the expertise they bring onto the group, and be open and not just try to dictate on how the group is going to work. Then hydrate. Caffeine is important, but water intake is also crucial during these weeks, during the days. And as a facilitator, you should mention this to the groups. You should give the groups breaks, and also you should focus on not overworking the groups during the early days. So session should be 90 minutes at max, and then we should give the groups at least let's say 15 minutes of breathing time and time to refocus also. We discussed already about being timely, but then the final part is that inside the groups, uh, there should be the motivation to drive the process forward. So the groups are the ones that should have the inner motivation for the development. As a facilitator, we can really push them and help them be better. But the groups need to decide how good they want to be. Because we are as a facilitator, we are sort of the helpers. We are helping the groups to succeed. All right, then the assignment. The assignment is also on the link that we provided. So read a given article on creating a design sprint, compare the design sprint methodology to another development format of your choosing. And here for HAMK first year students, the method will be HAMK Daily. Others, you can choose the method on your own. What similarities and differences can you locate? What pros and cons are in the development methods? And you should read one article and also read the or watch the material by Mr. Vesa Tuomla that's in the InnoBoost website. So a short interview about design sprint. Then in here you can also see the grading criteria. So the length of the learning report should be between 1.5 and 2 pages, and the report can also include pictures. And into the learning report, you should report your own findings and your own analysis of the design sprint as the development method. So quite an easy one. Here is the reference list being used. And what's next? Well, now it's already Friday, the afternoon, but here you can still see some general information, and all the materials can be found. This presentation also can be found from bit.ly/bootcamphunk. Thank you for this, and have a great weekend, and hopefully you're enjoying the Run in a Boost development as